Technology, business, multimedia, wellness and health, events, reviews, and more. This is Mary Collins from LifeHakx Media, and I have the pleasure of having Eva Weisenbeck, our wellness and health guru, back online with us today. Eva, what have you got for this week's Life Hacks?
So today is very exciting. We are going to go back to sadistic statistics.
Sadistic statistics, yes.
We're going to look at 2020, so we're going to look at last year, and we're going to actually look at some of the factual statistics that have come out since. So I'm going to use a wonderful quiz that was produced by a group called the Heart Group, and I will link to all of this in the blog so people can go and try it themselves and read more data. So we'll just do it.
Let's go.
Okay. Question 1. What is COVID-19? Is it a virus, a disease, or a syndrome? And the answer is it's a disease.
Okay. I thought it was just a made-up excuse to get us microchipped. But anyway, go on.
Yeah, I probably even shouldn't have mentioned the name, should I? Never too late. But yeah, so no, this is it's just back to media. The actual virus is SARS-CoV-2. If you develop symptoms, that's when it becomes COVID-19. And you could say that long-haul COVID-19 is a syndrome. So but it's important. We need to know what's what.
Right. Fair enough.
Yeah. So all of this, I should say, is based on the UK, but I think the numbers are so good and important, we'll do it anyway. So in 2020, the overall age-adjusted mortality rate of 1,043 people out of 100,000 people. When was the last time it was that high? And the options they gave were 1928, 1944, 1968, and 2008. So
okay. Do I get to guesstimate?
Yeah. So I mean, the overall age-adjusted mortality in 2020 was no worse than 2008.
Interesting. So the overall, let's just say that again, the overall mortality.
Age-adjusted mortality rate in 2020 in England was no worse than in 2008.
Wow. Look at that.
Yeah. So context.
Yes, context. So people can run around screaming the sky is falling, but like if the sky looks exactly how it did back in 2008, ask questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I love this one. Question number 3. What percentage of the total UK population died within 28 days of a positive test during 2020? Yeah, in 2020. It was 0.1%, 1.3%, 5.8%, or 10.4%.
I think it's like the British say, not 0.8%. What? Not point what?
0.1.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Actually died.
In 2020, in a rampant pandemic, 0.1% of the total UK population died within 28 days of a positive test. So we're not even saying they died of it, just possibly with it.
So they could have died of old age.
Yeah. So to give context,
they could have died of a car accident. They could have died of other morbidity causes like cancer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but that was a good point, Mary. So to give context, on average, they say that 1% of the UK population pass every year. So 1% of the total UK population die every year, and in 2020, 0.1 passed within 28 days of a positive test.
Good to know.
Really good to know, I think.
Right. This might wake some people up. People, you can check this out. This will be on Eva's podcast blog section of lifehakx.com. That's with a K and an X. Lifehakx.com. Keep going.
It'll make a lot more sense when you actually do the quiz yourself, but it felt so important I wanted to do it with you, Mary.
Yeah.
Question 4. What was the average age of COVID-labelled death in the UK in 2020?
I got this.
Yeah, I know you do. 62.4 years old, 72.4, 82.4, or 92.4.
92.4 or 82.4.
82.4, which
All
is
right.
slap bang really on the average life expectancy in the UK.
Correct. The average, you said in a previous podcast, the average life expectancy in the UK is like 81 for men, right? And like 83 or 82 for women.
Yeah. Doesn't mean it's not tragic. It's, of course, it's horrendous, but we need context.
Right.
Yeah.
So and we have to remember that in the hospitals in the UK, you don't actually have to die of the see you next Tuesday disease. You just have to be suspected as having it for them to get their 20% bonus checks. No motive. No motivation.
No.
Yeah.
No, there were some interesting changes, but we'll do that another day.
Okay.
Next question. This is another brilliant one. This is going back to June 2020, so bear that in mind. So the pandemic really started in March in the UK. So in June 2020, how many known mutations had been detected? Was it 6, 178, 12,119, or 353,341?
That's really a massive difference.
It's a massive difference.
Variance, people. Variance. How many variants? Mutations. Sorry. Is there a difference?
Correct.
Okay. How many mutations of the see you next Tuesday virus was there?
So
how many?
By June 2020, we already had 353,341.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. How many jabs are we gonna need if there's 300,000?
Yeah.
In less than a few months.
Yeah. So on average, what they say, and this has come out, there's a wonderful research lab who's done most of the genomic sequencing, and they came out with an article and they said on average, this is just how viruses works, but this one is actually a pretty stable one. In fact, flu is even worse. But yeah, it mutates. There's two mutations per week. But what we need to bear in mind that means it goes from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32. So yeah, I mean, God knows where.
So if this was really dangerous, the whole world should be dead by now. I mean, with that many.
So tiny. It means.
Right, they're so tiny.
So tiny.
Right, that's the other thing, because they're talking about new variants, new strains. But then, so what? The new variants and strains aren't any more dangerous than the original one.
No. And that has actually been proven now, because the big one they talked about was the Kent version, and that is not. It might transmit more, but it's not. It doesn't cause any more severe disease or mortality.
Unlike the solution, which is now killing younger people.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And this is a beautiful one. Okay, so during spring 2020, so bear in mind we're still talking, it only kicked off in March, within 90 days, spring 2020, what was the chance of a healthy 60-year-old woman catching SARS-CoV-2 and dying from COVID-19? It's 0.7%. 0.07%, 0.007%, or 0.0007%. And the answer is 0.007%.
Right.
So if you were a healthy 60-year-old woman who caught the virus and developed the disease, and this was back in the spring where things were a lot more hectic than they are now.
Supposedly.
Your risk of dying was 0.007%.
3 zeros, guys. Hello.
Context. Yeah, that's a good one.
Reminding people that in the meantime, in the interim, cancer is still killing people. Heart disease, number 1 killer, and number 3 killer, medical malpractice.
Yeah.
Medical malpractice, especially now with lockdown, and that you can't get to see the person that the hospitals are treating.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah, I think the news has just come out in the UK that, or it might even be England, I'm not sure. So yeah, England or UK, we are now the waiting list for the NHS to see, to seek treatment is over 5 million. And I believe it was below 3 million or 3 million before this whole thing started.
So, right. And so people who are going to be,
list.
They're on a waiting list to be seen. So that means that if you do have cancer, there's going to be more death this year. For sure. Because if you didn't get seen and you had cancer.
Yeah. It's already happened, which is.
So that is going to be a reaction of this.
Yeah.
See you next Tuesday. Not the actual virus itself, but the consequences of the procedures that were taken.
Non-medical interventions.
Right. Non-medical interventions, not to mention suicide rates, neglect, abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mental conditions. We'll just forget about all that because, whatever.
LifeHakx. What you want? Why work harder when you can work smarter and live better? LifeHakx.
Wow. So for Sadistic statistics, this is really good stuff, this quiz. Tell us some more.
Yeah. So again, bear in mind, this is the UK we're talking about, but I thought it just gave a good context overall. Next question is, what happened to SARS-CoV-2 transmission rate when mask mandate was introduced 24th of July 2020?
Nothing.
So, well, did it?
Anyway,
did it
what are the choices? Yes.
Did it go down? Did it go up? Or did it stay the same? It actually went up.
Wow, I didn't expect that.
No, neither did I.
Crazy. Okay, so let me understand this. So, when the mask mandate came into play
in 24th of July 2020, the transmission rate, so and this is based on positive tests, went up.
Sorry. Wow, those manufacturers of those masks must be laughing to the bank. Laughing. And the thing of it too, the joke of it too is that they banned people making their own cloth masks, didn't they? Like not acceptable. Apparently you can't go over to Germany and shop with a mask that's fancy, like with sequins or anything. It has to be. Yes, I just saw this today in a post.
Oh my gosh.
And it was like it has to be that surgical mask from China. It has to be. That one that helps increase your risks of getting the see you next Tuesday disease.
There's a lot of research behind this. So again, don't freak out when you hear it. There's a lot of things we can link to there. So, but yeah, just another interesting one. And this one, I'm going to do this one. This one links very closely to it. So when the third UK lockdown happened, which was 6th of January 2021, so just into this year, according to the ONS, which is the official national statistics people, they did an infection survey. When did the infections decline? Right, so I'll do that again. The third lockdown came in 6th of January. When did the infections decline? Was it the 26th of December? Was it the 6th of January, the 12th of January, or the 20th of January?
I'm thinking it's
December. The curve had already turned.
Wow.
The curve had already turned.
Wow.
They started dropping on the 26th, and on the 6th of January, we put in a lockdown.
Nice.
No
media covering this, by the way.
No. Why would you? But the data is there, and it's official public data. Where can
people look at this data again?
Yeah, so I'll post the link to the actual quiz, and that will give all the details. They're a really, really good group. They're a data group, so that's kind of what they deal with. They deal with the statistics and the data. And I'm going to do this because I think, although it's maybe not the most important, finance is important and economics. So in 2020, the UK saw a 10% drop in the GDP, in the gross domestic product. That was the biggest since 2008, 1929, 1857, or 1709. And it's the biggest drop of GDP in Britain or in the UK since 1709. It has been affected. For sure, for sure. Now, this is the last question, and this is because it's current, I think is really, really important. So they were looking at a week, and they're saying for the week ending 18th of April 2021, so not that long ago, how did the UK mortality rate compare with a 5-year pre-pandemic average? Was it 12% more? Was it 4% more? 1% more? Or 12% less?
12% less, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. You're correct.
Crazy.
It was 12%.
So did you hear that, people?
Yeah, so the UK...
But people will say that's because everybody was locked inside. They couldn't kill themselves on the roads, and they couldn't murder each other, although I think spousal abuse and child abuse is on the up, actually.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I shouldn't laugh because it's tragic, but it's so tragic I'm laughing. There's nothing else I can do.
Yeah.
So in the UK, on the whole, we have seen lower than average mortality every week since the 7th of March 2021. And I kind of think we do need to, again, it's back to context. We do need to bear that in mind.
And also consider the fact that with all of this actual information, why are we pushing an experimental drug or jab on not just the elderly and the,
vulnerable. Yeah.
Well, we are pushing it now on a different vulnerable. We're pushing this for pregnant women and children and everyone to get this without realizing that they didn't have a chance of being harmed by the original See You Next Tuesday disease. They weren't really spreading it, to my knowledge, because it's people in care homes that were dying. People in hospitals that were dying. And we don't know what the long-term effects are, but we are starting to see some sort of upbeat in miscarriages and or uptake in miscarriages, and we are seeing weird side effects with like strokes and heart disease or heart attacks in people that are healthy. So people can say, well, there's no correlation, and it's like, well, I don't know. Is there? I mean, there's no correlation in lockdown and health for sure before, just proven that. So where do you start to connect dots? Because certain things didn't make any difference. Mask wearing made no difference. However, when do you start saying, well, now there are these side effects happening to people and around to people who haven't had the jab, but are around people who have, and we have to take this into consideration that will soon be all of our health workers, all of our first responders, people that protect the society, and our children. Yeah. We've got to start thinking.
Yeah, we do. I think for me, one of the most fundamental is still back to this quote, which is like 0.1% of the total UK population died within 28 days of a positive test. And look at the interventions we have done and are doing, and what's coming down the line. Is it proportional
to the reaction?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And the laws changing and businesses being lost and the possibility of being monitored 24/7, whether you have you'll have to have a cell phone, because you have to carry this app around everywhere you go. People's rights are being infringed upon, and the real data is not being released or is being ignored. And we have to start asking why. And how do we stop real data from being censored? And how do we take back our rights? You got to start organizing with your communities locally and internationally now, because it can get worse.
It will get worse, actually. I'm going to be that bleak today and say it will get worse, because passports are almost here, and in some countries they are there.
Yeah. And when we say passports, right? It's not just passports. If they look up the way Chinese are doing it, it's a social, what is it called?
Social credit system.
Social credit system. Would you all sit down and watch an episode of Black Mirror, please? Like, seriously? social credit system is real in China. In China. I can't even say it. I'm so depressed.
Totalitarian, yeah.
Totalitarian.
Well, I'm the foreigner.
You know? Really? I mean, this is really going to protect our elderly? How? How is it going to protect our elderly?
No, it's going to discriminate and segregate completely against the people we are claiming to protect. We're not.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because there are legislations in the UK coming up, and the US, where they're going to have these marshals, like hello Gestapo, who can decide to isolate you, take you out of school if you're a child. They don't need your parents. They won't need your parents. They can just take a child that they suspect having been around or a carrier of a certain thing that hasn't actually killed very large amount.
1%. I'm going to keep saying it in the
UK. But we're going to allow permission for the government to do this, to just come in. Where we are monitored constantly, like animals, like cattle, to be specific, marked like cattle, have our children taken away from us because our opinion doesn't go with the narrative, have our children, and it's considered abuse, have our children taken away, like straight out of what's this one with the women who have their faces covered?
Yeah,
Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah,
this is how it starts, where your moral police come around, and if they think you're not a good parent because you don't deserve, because they're all infertile. How did that happen? Because it was environmental pollution. It sounds like a big old sci-fi movie, but it's happening. So when are y'all gonna wake up? Yeah. That's all I'm asking. Wake them.
Yeah. Ask questions and never
ask questions and fight back.
Actually, and never look at a single figure. You always need a context to everything.
And now's the time. You forget book club. Now's the time to have conspiracy club, or should I say critical thinking club with your community. Because if you don't start doing something within the community and sort of like saying something, then you might as well just moo your whole way to the abattoir. Just go ahead. Just keep going right off the cliff, you dodo. Anyway, all right. Thanks, Eva. For anyone who's listening, there'll be more information on lifehakx.com. That's with a K and an X. And we do have other blogs about health, wellness, and so much more. Thanks, Eva. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Mary.
Last night a DJ saved my life. Last night a DJ saved my life from a broken heart.
LifeHakx. LifeHakx.com. That's with a K and an X on Radio X.